Hi guys, it's Arsh here, and I just picked up a new amp shipped off to me from LA Music in Mississauga. So this amp has actually crossed the country to get here. It's the 1964 reissue of the Supro Thunderbolt, the Supro S6420 Thunderbolt. Single 15, all tube, 26L6 is the power tubes in this. So yeah, it's a reissue of the 1964 amp. I think it'll fit in really nicely with my other gear. I've always preferred to buy vintage reissue equipment. Love the vintage stuff, but I like to know that I'm the first and the original owner, and that way I can baby my gear for as long as I have it. So yeah, rather than looking for the actual stuff. And sometimes you save a bit of money too. So like my 60s Heritage hand-wired here, or my SVT CL300 back here. So yeah, let's see how this looks. It's packed really nicely in this nice Supro box here. So I'm just gonna pull it out and give it a whirl and see how it sounds. Yeah, so as you guys can see, it looks absolutely gorgeous. So this is, I did quite a bit of research before settling on this amp as my next piece of gear. It's a really interesting piece of equipment. So Valco, the company, has roots starting back in 1942. They were making the Supro amps. By 1968, they were the third largest manufacturer of amplifiers in the United States. So this amp came out in 1964. It's called the Supro S6420. So it originally came out as a bass amp. It's got a single 15, 35 watt all tube. And so like the Fender Bassman, it didn't do that great as a bass amp. But once guitar players started playing it, they found kind of a holy grail of really awesome sound that they could get out of it. So single 15, 35 watt. It's got the 26L6 tubes for the power stage, and then the preamps are the 12AX7, two of them. Weighs in at 45 pounds. It's really beautiful. So this amp has the urban legend that Jimmy Page used this amp on the first two Led Zeppelin recordings, but earlier than that, Jimi Hendrix was seen using it extensively when he was playing with Little Richard and the Isley Brothers. So yeah, a lot of history here, and I feel like this amp will blend in really nicely with its two, I guess you can say, bigger brothers. So I've got the Vox Heritage hand-wired, which is also a 60s reissue, and my SVT CL300 over here, which is also a reissue. So always prefer to buy the vintage gear, but definitely the reissues are awesome because you know, I like to know that I'm the first and original owner, and I'm the one that can baby my equipment from the time that I purchase it for hopefully a lifetime kind of thing. And yeah, so a really nice piece of gear. I'm going to plug it in, give it a whirl, see how it sounds. So yeah, definitely made in the United States, which is a huge bonus. So made in Port Jefferson, New York. So yeah, these amps, although they were made in the 60s, 1964, this amp came out and it had a huge kind of history with the Chicago blues scene. Supro kind of disappeared in 1968, and they started to resurface a bit when people were looking for interesting one-off vintage equipment. But these amps got reissued back in 2014, so Supro kind of came out again. They were making the equipment kind of basically to the same specifications that the original equipment was, with the same, you know, Supro Eminence 15-inch speaker and the same kind of power tube setup. Obviously some upgraded wiring and components in there just to bring it to the modern era, to give it some you know, some of that durability and quality and workmanship, so that the product can last. But yeah, this got shipped to me from LA Music in Mississauga. It arrived really perfect condition, and I can't wait to hear how it sounds. So what I'm gonna do is just plug it in probably with a Telecaster, and after that I'll see how it sounds with my pedal board and with some effects, as I normally do run through a few different distortion pedals. So normally I do play kind of grungy, sludgy kind of rock music, and I think that the single 15 is going to sound awesome for that with the added bottom end. So yeah, let's plug it in and see how it sounds. Yeah, so I've got my Telecaster plugged in here. I'm going to run through a couple of different riffs. Being from Alberta and growing up, so Widemouth Mason was a band that we followed a lot, so those are kind of riffs that I usually like to play when I'm testing stuff out. But yeah, so I'm gonna do a couple of variations, bridge pickup, neck pickup, but already the amp sounds really amazing, so let's just hear how it sounds. So the amp sounds amazing. I've just got everything set kind of at noon, which is normally how I play most of my gear. I usually leave everything equalized pretty flat, so the tone is flat, the volume is basically just at noon right now, or I guess some people call it 6 or noon, but just basically half the way up. So yeah, that was a little riff by Widemouth called The Game, but yeah, let's see how it sounds with the neck pickup. The amp sounds really amazing, and I can definitely hear some of that 60s influence in there, so. So as I mentioned, I'm just going to hit the Supro amp with some pedals here, and just quickly go through my signal chain here. So I have 3 different stages of gain, and I usually couple them together. So for example, I'll hit the Rat into the Big Muff together, or I'll have the OD808 into the Rat. And this is just a looper here, so I can trigger multiple distortions at once. And then I compress after distortions just to make sure that I have a balanced signal coming out of my pedal chain into my amp. And then a tiny bit of room reverb with the TC Hall of Fame. And then I'll just boost my overall signal at the end with just a normal a booster there. Yeah, and then I'll throw in some phase once in a while. So pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna run that into the amp, and I'm just gonna show you how the Jaguar sounds with some humbuckers and with some multiple gain stages. So I'll do the OD808 and the Rat together, and then I'll do the Rat with the Big Muff, just to see how the Supro and the single 15 take the pedals. Yeah, so this is just the basic setup I'm going to be running through here. So just talked about the pedals. The guitar I'm going to be running is just it's just a Jaguar Special HH. I've got some Seymour Duncans in there, so the JB in the bridge and the Jazz in the neck, which is pretty standard stuff. And then yeah, I'll just be running through this, this setup here, pretty straightforward, into the Supro, and then I've just got the SM421 on there, which I think is good for the single 15. So yeah, I'll just be playing some kind of sludgy, kind of grungy stuff with these different gain stages, just to show kind of a bit of my sound and what I'm going for, and why this amp is so cool. So yeah, some of the riffs I'll be playing will just be from some of the songs that I'm working on right now, and that I hope to release pretty soon here. Okay, so I've got the single 421 on there. The amp is, I'm running into the low input on the amp. I've got the volume again halfway, as I normally do. And I've got the tone turned up just a little bit, just to compensate, to take out some of the bottom end from the humbuckers. So normally I use the neck pickup on this Jaguar. That's typically what I prefer. So I'm just going to show you clean with some compression, and then I'm going to kick onto the Rat going into the Big Muff, which is kind of a really bottom heavy, kind of chugging kind of sound that I like for the sludgy kind of grunge music that I normally like to play. So I'll just go clean, and then I'll kick on the Rat going into the Big Muff, and let's see how it sounds with the Supro here. So what I'll do next is I'll just run it through the OD808 going into the Rat. So that's a bit of a cleaner drive signal, so without the Big Muff for the fuzz, and we'll just see how that sounds as well. I'll try to hit it with some phaser as well. And again, this is the neck pickup, so